Hello, we're on to step 17. This piggybacks on top of step 16, so we have the assemblies that we built there to add to this one. So starting up in the corner, pretty simple. Add in shelf, bracket, CB holder, coffee place, who knows. Add that. Next, add A19, goes over here. Remember to put the round, I'm guessing vent, on the bottom rather than on the top, or outside. Inside bottom rather than outside top. Make sure that presses down well. So there's that. Now, entering this, the first thing that I would do, and this seems kind of counterintuitive, but it feels like even though this piece goes on well like this, one, you can see it doesn't actually fit very well and would need to be, there we go, put that on. I think what I want to do is glue this piece on first, like so. See if it will glue or fit or glue in. There we go. And then add the foot pedal part second. Just get the feeling that this is going to work better. That seems to be good. Now, if I had to guess, that would be the emergency brake, but not 100% sure. However, that's that. Now we have to make two sets of chairs here. I'm going to start with K38 and J42. Now, the important part of this that I found is that even though it kind of looks like a J42 is not, the hole is not square in the middle. It goes off to the side. And K38 looks like it's pretty much, there's no difference one side to the other. So when I put this on, I'm making sure that the hole is a little bit more towards the away from me, I guess, at this point, just like in the illustration. I'm not sure how much of a difference this is going to make, so let's find out here together. So there's that, and then you're supposed to take the notch or peg that's in the back and put it to that. Now, that's what it is. Actually, it's not to the left or the right, it's to the top rather than the bottom. That's how it is. So that makes more sense to me now as to why that notch was not square in the middle. And that sets your back of your seat up fairly nicely. Do it again. In this case, now that I know why, it feels right. It's one of those things where I guess I enjoy knowing why things are being done in a certain way, because then it makes more sense to me. And if there are any problems, I can start to troubleshoot from the get-go. So there's that and that. Oops. So now the seat back, I did clean that off. It just looks bad, but they go together by just pushing it in, and there's no other I don't want to say hazards, but there's nothing else preventing this from going in. There's no positive key alignments or anything like that. Just gets pushed in and glued on. And as you can see, it's not the world's most perfect fit, but it does look like it works. So what I'm getting at is that it doesn't look like there's any sort of keying or any way that I'm, say, putting this on upside down or left to right or anything like that. It's just, that's how it fits. Looks like that. And while those are drying, what I want to do is put the seat bottom together. And actually, I have been somewhat impressed by the design of this. So the way that this is set up, and don't get me wrong, this isn't like the most fabulous thing. I'm not going to like drop photo etched metal for this. But what I've noticed is that they offset the pegs. I'm going to right now clean these up just a little bit. They offset the pegs and use the bottom pieces here as a pretty decent little base unit for what's in the real trucks. Now, I don't think that the real deal has a split bottom. I think it's like solid pieces, but still, this is better than most of the other trucks that I have built, where they just give you kind of a square base to put the seat on, if they give you anything at all. Sometimes the seat just gets stuck on the cab floor, and that's just it. But you'll notice that there is some, I'm going to call it some hesitation on the part of the parts to stay together. And that's where you got to let the glue do its work. And it's all in this joint right there. And so once you get that joint to really stick well and sit the way you want, things go better. If better is the word you want to use. But not perfect. So, again, fiddly. But I do like the overall look of this part for that railed box that's on the bottom of the truck, on the floor of the cab, underneath the seat. And that's how it should be said. So, yep, give that time. So I did one. Now what I'm going to do, based on what I just saw, I'm going to take my file, I'm going to file in here a little bit, because there are, right here and here, there are some mold lines, and that might be affecting it. So I'm going to do a little bit there, a little bit on that tab, a little bit to each side of the tab. Just to see, now that we're doing a second one, if it has any effect, or if it has no effect at all. We can compare and contrast the builds. So, in this case, I'm going to add the glue first. I'm not even going to dry fit it. I know, I'm way out of hand. And it still has a little bit of issue. It went together a little bit better, I think anyway. But it looks like it's not all just based on some sort of small casting, or yeah, well, casting is not the right word either, on some sort of flaw in the process of injection molding, but more along the lines of just having these pieces come together. Maybe a little bit more filing would have made it perfect. Don't know. But I think that looks pretty good. That's done. Now on this side we have to add these two rather, again, this I find to be somewhat ingenious as well. These parts right here, and that one right there, and this one right here, need to go together and then be put inside this little box. And the holes definitely go to the back, if you want to call it that. Not sure about orientation at this point. But what I'm doing is trying to get these to align. I think that they don't have the greatest, yeah, I'm right. They don't have the greatest gluing surface right here. There's no positive alignment, so to speak. It's just a butt joint between the two sides, and they've got that hole right in the middle. So I'm not thrilled with how positive and strong that joint's going to be. What I am impressed with is that this is the first time that I've built a truck like this where they're attempting to make the frame look like the actual kind of suspension of the real thing, rather than just a block or a blob or something like that. I'm fairly impressed. Outside of photo etch, I haven't run across something like that where I haven't had to scratch build something personally, which I have done, and it's a bit of a headache. So that's actually kind of impressive. Now, I thought I might have something really easy on hand to show, very similar, but it doesn't look like I have that as easily or readily available. Maybe I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong. All right, it's not easily available. So for my old DML Scud kit, I was scratch building these exact kind of frames for the truck, and they look good now that they're done, but they are definitely intricate and needed a bit of work. And again, they were not made from photo etch, they were actually made from plastic scratch building, and I believe I used some leftover or potential photo etch. Nothing that was terribly accurate, but something that was usable. However, as much as I may be teasing you by telling you about it, I can't find it. So if I do happen to find it shortly, I will show it. But otherwise, what I've done now is made the two bottoms of the chairs. I've got the two floor supports right here. And what you need to do then is put them on like they're on rails, because that's exactly what they would be like. And this is kind of a nice feature, because if you wanted to push the seats forward or back in your build, you can. It's not often that a kit gives you that opportunity. So if you happen to get an aftermarket figure set and it needs to be a little bit closer than normally the seats would allow, and apparently I missed a few little pieces under there. A little bit of flash that's in the way, but let's say you bought a resin figure kit and it's going to be just a little too close or a little too far away. This gives you the ability to adjust the seat so your driver or figure fits. I think that's really nice. That's a nice feature that you don't normally see. If you're aiming more for the, like I said, having a figure or doing a diorama. So there's that built. Now while those are drying, I'm going to follow this set of instructions right here and put the seat together. So a little bit of glue, haven't dry fit these yet. And then that's how I've got it looking. And again, looks like there's a little bit of marking on there for some reason. I don't want that. Looks like it could be fingerprint or just messed up from the glue. Now those are done. And again, I'm gonna let these dry a little bit. I want these all to be pretty solid when I glue them together. I don't want any problems. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm gonna step over into this set of instructions, and this part goes in between, in the center there. So we'll add some cement and slide that in like so. There is a little bit of a showing right there. Don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's the way that that's going to be. The throttle pedal, very thick, but I'm not worried about it at this point, personally. Goes into the indention right here. Use my forceps. Put that in there. Not the most accurate. I've got to get it in there better. So you can see that there's a bit of a hook. Well, that goes in there, but it's supposed to give it a bit of an angle too. It's a little bit of sloppy engineering. They could have had a positive, but I just put it in so it has a little bit of an angle to it, not a lot. Now we've got two shift knobs, levers, controllers. Up here. Now, this one is kind of odd in that it's actually supposed to be leaning away from the driver. And a little bit forward, and tweezer launch is a real thing. Did I get lucky there? So the way that I'm interpreting the drawings is that this goes in here like so. There you can see it from above, there you can see it from the side. It's got a bit, it's going forward and it's leaning away from the driver. And then the other shift lever, and you want to make sure, I thought that I'd clean this up, you want to make sure that this is definitely flush. Leans forward as well. In this little slot that's right here, that's made for it. But you want to make sure that it's touching. My guess is that this is the shift lever and that's more of a throttle maybe. Not 100% sure, but That's what it appears to be. Here is, I'm not sure if this is a battery, but it shows that the protrusion and the two holes should be arranged like that when you glue it on there, according to the instructions. I don't know if those holes eventually will get wiring. I'm thinking maybe they will. I don't know yet. It is a bit of a mystery to me, and that's part of the fun of the hobby. Okay, for some of us. And then here is the fire extinguisher. There is no positive placement, just a kind of put it in here sort of thing. So I'm going to kind of sort of put it in here sort of thing, but I'm going to also try to set it up so that it is not going to interfere with anything accidentally. So a little bit further in rather than away. Does have, you know, reasonable detail for something that's shoved underneath the console for strap down and buckling and that. So that shouldn't, I hope, interfere with anything. So that's now in place. I'm going to work on these parts now while I'm waiting for these to still dry. Notice that the cutouts go to the top. Here's A5, and there's that. Even though they're pegs, there is a positive placement there once it's figured out. The only downside is it appears that by using those pegs, well, I guess it's got a bit of a bend to it. So I'm going to very carefully, without applying too much force. I'd rather have it bend a little bit in, because then when I put it on these location pegs, it tends to push it out. But this is one of those things where this is where my super glue is going to help me out, because I don't want to have these sides winging out. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of the, well, I guess I'm not, because my super glue tip is plugged. So I'll unplug it and we'll try this again. So what I'm aiming for is to have a solid base. So I'm going to put glue in the 3 spots I'm worried about for any sort of bending or non-straightness. Take that as you will. But I'm just kind of tacking it on, meaning I'm really trying not to use the super glue as the only adhesive here. I'm just using it as the start or the placement, just to get this to sit square. And I did get a little bit of the glue here, so I'm going to scrape it off like so. Now the first thing I want to do with my model glue is hit these little spots here that aren't going to have a whole lot of surface area. See right there, it's just the tip. And then I'm going to go in and put the glue on the front. I'm going to not go over the area that had the super glue in it, and just let the capillary action pull the glue in. And what I'm hoping this will do is not soften the plastic too much around the glue, the super glue, but allow it to start the process of fusing the plastic together. So then when this is done, it will be a solid square bench, super glue or no super glue. Let that dry. Last, for putting stuff together, we have this frame piece of A11, and we've got A2, and aside from it having the knockout marks Doesn't seem like there's any difference between one side or the other. On the other hand, looking at A11, there is 2 sets of protrusions that really stick out, and all the rest are equal on either side. That tells me that we want those longer protrusions to go into the holes to give us the proper setup. Now, I'm going to put the glue on the side, again, that doesn't have the knockout pins, because I want that to go into the cushion. I'm going to take the side that has the longer pins on the ends and put those through the holes. Let that set up for just a minute or two. Well, okay, a second or two. And then I'm going to add some glue to these cross braces just to start getting that going. As far as getting this solidly attached. So there's all that. Here's the back of this. It doesn't look like there's an up or a down for this particular, I'm going to call it a cushion or back. It just goes on. I've put it on, being careful to not touch any glued spots. Now I'm going to just run a bead of glue across this. This is going to get sucked down. I can see it going down around with capillary action, which is what I like, because that means that I don't have to worry about it getting in every little nook and cranny. Because I brushed over it, I just put a little bit of glue, more glue over the top, and then put that to dry as well. And finally, we come to the drive shaft, or the drive shaft. We come to the steering shaft, and this part, this is again kind of cool, snaps on right there. So guess what? You actually can adjust your steering wheel if that's what you want. However, it looks like it's set up to glue on here, so that there is a positive location on the dash. But it does make it for an interesting option. As of right now, if I were to glue this on as indicated, like that, and then using the steering wheel. Now, the important thing to note about the steering wheel setup is no matter which way you put this on, this cylinder and this handle are supposed to go towards the inside, not towards the outside. So that goes there, and with that, I don't know. It doesn't feel very positive supporty. It feels like I'm missing the bottom of that by a little bit. Although it still says, oh, I'm putting it in the wrong spot. My mistake. This hole right here is where the steering wheel goes. Okay, I feel a little foolish, but I'm glad I caught that. So now you don't have to. So there is a bit more of a positive spot. Now, maybe you don't want to put this in just yet. You want it to be free so that you can paint it. But the nice thing is that now that I have this in the proper spot, yeah, this hooks up. Hooks right up to that, so you can have the steering wheel that way, and it feels like you can, yeah, you can shift it down so then you have it more along those lines. Instead of straight up and down, you can have it tilted forward if you want. It's very interesting, even if it's a little cumbersome. And so at this point, I'm going to glue right there. And see, there's a little bit of a bow in this, and I don't like that. I want things to sit nice and square when I put them on, and it's got a bit of a bow. So what I'm going to do is take that off, and you'll notice that the glue didn't actually attach, so that's a good point too. Put a little bit of the super glue right there, and then reposition this again. And I'm going to clean that up just a little bit to make sure that it's not going to interfere with parts going on later on. But the stuff sets nice and quick. Now I feel like I have a nice solid attachment. The glue did go in that time. So now that I've got that, again, what I want to do is just add a little bit of glue on the sides, not over the super glue, and then this will weld the plastic to the sides, but hopefully it won't wick through and soften up the plastic underneath the super glue, and we'll get that nice square solid setup in there. Looks like it's holding. And at this point I'm going to actually glue on the steering wheel, because I'm a brave fool, right? And what I'm going to do after I've got that glue on is I'm going to keep an eye on this as well, because it looks like it wants to be up higher. This looks like it wants to be up here. And I like the idea of it being up there and attached because I like positive attachment points, but then you have that problem, which is the drive or the steering wheel shaft doesn't quite want to reach down. Now, I can't really push this piece down. Oh, that's the mistake. Okay, I get it now. The problem is that instead of the dash being up that high, it's supposed to tuck in right in front of there. That's where the mistake is on the fit. Okay, so that's why I was having issues. Now when I put this on, it'll glue right on. No problem at all. So there's tons of warnings in here for you guys and gals if you're building this kit. And I'll give you a good side shot here in a moment once I get a good solid positive fit of all this. I gotta put a little bit more glue to start getting it to stick. First and foremost, you want to make sure that that thing is square and stuck. There's nothing worse than having a screwed up steering wheel later on. But once you've got it in, you can feel and see if it is or not. So there's what it looks like underneath. This curve should be there. Now this does have a ridge along the top. That's where the super glue is screwing it up. So what I need to do, and this is good for damage control, is to carefully go in and maybe loosen this up a little bit. Not as easy as it looks, just so you're aware. But looking down the side of it, it doesn't look like actually that there's a problem. Looks like it reset as needed. But this should be touching all of that. So down in here and over the top in here. That should all be together, and then you've got the steering wheel bracket in the hole, and you've got the bracket. I don't even know what to call it, the bracket system, the wheel holder, the shaft aligner. That's all set up as well. And eventually you just have to stop fiddling around with a jock and let it be. So there we go through that set of sub-steps. Now I'm going to glue on the back of the seat. Very simple. Make sure it's very square if you can, because you don't want to have a fit issue later on. And then there's a notch right here that corresponds right there, and then everything positively slides back. So putting some glue in here and across there just to start with. I just want a little bit. I'm grabbing the seat, even though I just glued it, because it's definitely getting solid. Now there's another problem right there, is it's in the spot but it's not sitting down. So this is again where the super glue is going to come in and help. Now this is not supposed to be seen in this area, so I can just put some glue in there, kind of tamp it down. If you're going to open up your cab and this is going to be a focal area, you may want to make sure that the glue is a little more tidied up. I'd probably use my super glue remover if I was worried about it. Okay, there it's set. Now there's going to be a little bit of tension because it's pushing against that, but hopefully right in here. But hopefully by adding some more glue right there to get a nice positive weld, right like so, that feels really good and it looks really good. So I'm happy with how that's set up. Now this is dry enough. This is the back of the seat. How does this go in? Like this, doesn't look very good. Like that, there's no positive point. So my guess is going to be, and it seems to be borne out by the look of it, is that this needs to be more level. So I'm just trying to level it out. That's about as good as it's going to get. So then I'm also going to take this file and try and level this out, because this represents the front of the seat. There we go. So it'll be these 2 points right here in the back and this in the front, basically gluing it to the seat. I like this detail. I'm not gonna lie. I like how this looks. I like how this is engineered. It's a little fiddly insofar as, you know, I mean, it takes a little bit of work to get this to go together. And not everything is just, you know, slap it together and call it good. But it captures the look. The detail is there for the amount of work that you have to put in. Now, that said, maybe I don't want to have those seams in there and in the bottom. This is a part that is entirely possibly something that, if I was concerned about it, I might want to do as a 3D piece. Basically because, you can see that these parts right here tend to angle right there, and yeah, maybe I don't want to sit and file it, maybe I don't want to fill it with putty and sand it down. You know, maybe there's more detail missing. I haven't looked at the actual seats themselves, but this could be a place where where people might be interested in getting new parts, making it look a little bit better. Now that I've got that done, a little extra glue, starts letting that set before I'll worry about aligning it. And yeah, just letting there we go, the glue's starting to kick in, so it stays in place. Now, overall, are you going to see the fronts of these seats normally? No. You wouldn't have to worry a bit about them. Don't have to even do the worry about filling in these gaps in the front, because you're not normally going to see them. Just that goes on. This is why we like having the glue set for a while, because I just push down on the seat and it does wibble wobble a little bit, but overall that's solid. And it's solid on the floor the way that I want it. And same with this right here. And they go on really snug, and they look, I mean, they look good. That is a good looking setup right there. I can see where people might want the drivers, the steering wheel up a little higher, and you'll notice that it is a little, seems a little bit off center compared to where the driver is from where I put it. But if I move it over, the shaft seems a little bent to the side. It's a little odd, but you now know it's there. You are aware. You can do as you wish. And with that, we have completed step 17. Fair bit longer than I expected, but good stuff. See you for step 18.